Yeah, just grab the seat, mate. Make yourself feel comfortable. Long way down. Now you've got to get up, remember. Growing up as a youngster, most of us in the room remember our backyard cricket and the introduction to our earliest years. What's the backstory with you?
Fears? Yeah, I guess like everyone really, I suppose. It starts early in the backyard, doesn't it? I was lucky enough to be born into a family of cricketers. So as soon as you could, you had a tennis ball in your hand. Back in the days when a tennis ball was a prized thing, and a new one even better. Yeah, so any family function was always cricket based, and yeah, and I was lucky enough to have Bevo as well that was always going to make me competitive. So yeah, cricket in the backyard seemed to go for days on end, and especially when we moved up north and to Waio, it was bloody hot, but we still went for days on end.
Your first involvement in junior competition cricket?
Yeah, we were born on Phillip Island, so our first introduction to cricket was at the Real Cricket Club on Phillip Island, which is no longer going, but it was part of the Phillip Island Cricket Club. Great little ground. We still frequent Phillip Island as it was where we were born, as I said, and yeah, it's great to see the little ground there. They've done it up now. It's got a nice little picket fence around it, a la the Cobram Cricket Club, and looks magnificent. There's only the lower grades play there now, and but yeah, to see it nowadays, what looked such a big ground is such a tiny little ground. But yeah, that's where we started.
Mick, you made your name as an all-rounder. Have you always been an all-rounder? And those early basic knowledge and skills of cricket, how were they defined?
Yeah, lucky enough to have uncles and a few family friends that were really good shooters when we were that young. But no, I wasn't always an all-rounder. Oh, well, I suppose I was. Wicket keeping, do you call that all-rounder? When I was younger, I used to bowl a bit of medium pace, but turned to wicket keeping as it went on, and then went back from there, back to a little bit of ordinary medium pace, and then back to spin. So, yeah.
Prior to the Terry Colston factor, who were the greatest influences on your cricket career?
Well, there's one right here in the room tonight. Before we come to Murray Valley, we had a great association in the Nathaya Association, I guess. That's where I first found my love of really rep cricket, I suppose, and playing good cricket. It was only a little comp, the Nathaya comp, but it was where we learned to play cricket, and it was tough cricket. The conditions weren't as favourable as when we moved to Murray Valley. From time to time, the conditions were pretty tough on the old mats and rolled out on a bit of sand, and there were some pretty tough times back then. But I had people there when I started first playing rep cricket in the Nathaya comp, and I'll name them Brownie and Donny Brown, who's here tonight, and Jimmy Kill, Tammy Muir, those sorts of guys that were looking after us then. Fantastic, whet my appetite for rep cricket, and I'll never forget them for that. And they were terrific, fantastic times back then playing for Nathaya, and it scared the shit out of me to think that when we were coming across to Murray Valley that those days of playing country cricket might be gone, but that soon changed once I come across here.
A certain Terry Colston comes into your life, comes into the life of the Waio Cricket Club, and things turn around, things change significantly.
Yeah, well, Terry come out to Waio. We must have had a league meeting, I think, because we had to start in the A Reserve when we first came into Murray Valley, and the league come out, which was very good of them to speak to us and sort of set the groundings for what, I think it was Brucey Tua might have been president, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, I've got a great memory. But set the groundings on what's expected of us and made us play areas of the first year, which was terrific. But on that night, Terry came out, and everyone that knows Terry knows what he's like. He had that big gruff voice and big hands, and he came up and said to me, "I reckon you don't mind a game of rep cricket, mate. Are you interested in playing?" And when he said it, you're sort of trembling a bit, and when you've never met him before and didn't know what he was like, and yeah, and I've said it many a time before. From that day on, we got on famously, and yeah, it's gone from there.
Terry was a larger-than-life character, not just for the Waio Cricket Club, but obviously he changed things when it came to representative cricket.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to come in at the exact same time when Terry took over. And yeah, obviously Murray Valley were going, pretty well in rep cricket in all aspects of it anyway. And it was in the days when we had two sides. You'd play your Sunday cricket back when cricketers were cricketers and they were allowed to do what they wanted to do on weekends. And we'd have an A and a B, the second side and the first side playing on Sundays. Like, you couldn't believe it now, you can't get one up. But back then we used to get two on Sundays. And my first ever game, I was picked in the twos, and lo and behold, of course, someone pulled out on the Saturday night, so I had to play in the first. I got lifted up into the first in my first game. But and Terry was just so passionate about then, and was trying to restructure it a little bit. And he was just only interested in those people that were interested in actually being there, that weren't forced to be there, that wanted to be there. That were prepared to put in the yards, prepared to put in, get there early, get prepared, do it all professionally. So he brought that to us. He brought that, get yourself organised, for God's sake. If you're late for the bus, you probably won't be picked in the next game, all those sorts of things. What he brought there, got himself a good entourage of helpers which stayed from ball one to ball when he passed, and they stuck with him. And yeah, well, I suppose the rest is history there.
An unbelievable run at Bendigo Country Week. What was special about the culture of Bendigo?
Well, it's a fantastic town, as everyone knows. 47 pubs. It's going to be hard to... I think that was when it started. I think they're probably down to 4 or 5 probably now by now, because the pubs are a hoodoo now, aren't they, or something. But it's such a fantastic town, and the people of Bendigo embraced it so much. You were made to feel so welcome. Lovely people that you met every time you went there. And you got a really good press coverage when you went there, and we were that well looked after. Well, certainly the time I went there with guys like Kevy and that, organising so much. It was just a week away to a wonderful town, wonderful community, in great conditions for cricket because it was so hot and the wickets were so good that you just couldn't help but enjoy it. And of course, you got to frequent a couple of those 47 occasionally.
The culture of Melbourne Country Week, 3 or 4 weeks later, it was on again, and the standards were obviously raised to a great height. David played Goliath at one stage there when Terry taught the Murray Valley to believe in themselves and to come up against the Goliaths of Melbourne Country Week. And there's even a terrific story about how we nearly, as David, slayed Goliath when we took on the might of Geelong at the University Oval one year.
Yep, an amazing game of cricket. He did took us all the way there, and we needed Terry to get us up to the top, and we fought tooth and nail for years and years on end. Just sometimes just the fight to stay in provincial, and he drove us that hard to stay in provincial that it went on for years and years. But after that, as you mentioned, Mick, things picked up. His entourage of young fellas that he'd had a lot to do with started to blossom and started to come through the ranks. And I know when I first started, we were in about Division 3 and going pretty well at that, and we ended up to where we did. But it was from the latter years when the twins come along, the Carter boys, Shawnee Downey, Marcus McMillans, those sorts, but Chrissy Armstrong's, like Asher Quinns and that. We just had an amazing team towards the end, and it was so enjoyable that we became, just about the side to beat. And it happened that day, that week. I can nearly replay the whole week. We played 4 games, and we lost 1 game by 1 run. And unfortunately, that 1 run that we lost by ended up costing us the final, because it was a magnificent game of cricket. We were thrashing the shit out of Geelong, had them by the throat the first time I can't remember, Kevy might correct me this, I know he's in the room, I don't know if we ever beat Geelong, but that day we had them in a provincial final with an amazing cricket team. We had them exactly where we wanted them, but we knew that the conditions were going to tear out, the forecast was bad. we'd gone out and batted brilliantly, won the toss, batted brilliantly, mate. I'm not sure how many we made, but we batted brilliantly. All the boys exceeded, and that was so enjoyable to watch.
I'm